Arts and Literary Festival, 7th edition. We're proud and pleased to present A Village Dies, Invitation to a Memorable Funeral, which has been written by Ivan Arthur. I, Jerry Pinto, will be in conversation with him. And without further ado then, as they say, though I have never understood what the word ado actually means. So what is ado?
Ask Shakespeare.
But even he was dismissive, much ado about nothing. And the subtitle of that one is called Or What You Will. Name it what you want, I didn't get it. Right? So without further ado then, while not knowing what ado is, I would like to invite our author on stage, Ivan Arthur, and I'm going to go and sit down there and now take over as the other part. Okay, can you hear me at the back? Ivan Arthur and I go back a long way, though he doesn't know it. My sister was in XIC many years ago when Ivan Arthur was teaching there in his advertising role, I think, and she was very impressed by how eloquent and elegant his presentations were and how well he taught the subject that he taught, which I've forgotten. I think it was copywriting?
It was creative.
Creative, yeah. So she was very impressed and she came back and told me all about it. And many years later, maybe decades later actually, as in my role as consulting editor for Speaking Tiger Books, where my friend Ravi Singh works, I was asked to give opinions on manuscripts that had come in about whether they should be published or not. And when Ivan Arthur's A Village Dies turned up, I immediately recognized it for what it was, a small jewel of writing. A project that is not ambitious in the terms that we set for ambition, but because of its lack of ambition, because of its desire to concentrate on the immediate, on the small, on the intimate and personal, achieves resonances far beyond the village in which, the urban village, it's an urban village literally, in which it is set. I have had many friends who grew up in Amboli and in Chimbai and in various other villages, Matarpakadi of Bombay, which retain at their best a link with the wider and the more urban space around them, and therefore partake of that sophistication. And also the young people of that village can retreat to their village and retreat to the warmness, to the warmth and the pleasure of the interpersonal when they need to. They can rebel against it as well, they can fight against it, they can want to get out of it. These are all part of the array of feelings that people have about a village. And I'm glad to see that now Goa is becoming like that, in the sense that there are villages which are actually still villages, but they have easy access to a much more cosmopolitan landscape of thought, of ideation, of festivals such as these, or the Goa International Film Festival, to which the best international directors will come. So actually, Goans, you're living in a really golden moment for Goa, I think. And it's up to all of you to kind of hold on to that feeling and keep the RSS out. So that's a little personal.
Say it again.
Political thing. Without, I think the idea of a discussion about a book where very few people know what the book is about, and I'm sure some of you have already bought it, but not read it yet. I think it would be best to start with a short reading from the book so that we get a feeling for the book, and then we can chat a bit about it.
Can you hear me?
Yes, loud and clear.
Damn. Which means I'm going to make sense. Okay, let's, I'll read, in fact, I should read from the introduction of the book. This is a work of fiction set in the village I grew up in. While the main story is fictional, it is built around the jagged corners of a few real events. This is about a village, the twin villages of Amboli and Kevni, which are part of a suburb of Bombay called Andheri. It is a story of the 1940s, where a cluster of homes owned almost entirely by East Indians, what they call East Indians, the original inhabitants of the place. The East Indians are one of the three communities of Portuguese Christians, the other two being the Goans and the Mangaloreans. They call themselves East Indians, placing diplomacy and strategy over geographic correctness for an opportunistic alignment with the powerful East India Company, thus separating themselves from the Gonds and the Mangaloreans. This would give them an edge over the other two groups in the job market of those days. For this reason, they even slipped out of their quaint East Indian Marathi dialect into the English language, which like an ill-fitting garment, had to be altered to fit the local tongue. Which brings us to the use of language in this narrative. The three communities communicate with each other in English of sorts, and English spliced to the vocabulary, grammar, accents, and phonetics of the native tongues. The Gonds and Mangaloreans spoke their respective forms of Konkani at home, out of home in the markets and agency store and grocery stores. They spoke Marathi and Hindi. With the other Catholics in the parish, they spoke, well, let's call it English. The East Indians, both at home and outside, spoke a fusion of English and the East Indian Marathi dialect. Call it Minglish or Maringlish, a forerunner, if you will, of the English made popular by that day advertising. Remember, Yehi, I right choice baby, that sort of thing. Now, just for fun, I've written a little thesaurus or lexicon of East Indian English for you. It was a very ingenious kind of English because one word would stand for so many. Like, take the word hopeless. It's an adjective. Hopeless could mean bad, like hopeless bugger, which meant no good, horrible, wicked, avoidable, dangerous, unfriendly, hateful, It could mean snooty, which is she, hopeless thing, proud, uncooperative, ugly. It could mean plain, that she was ordinary, that she was unsociable, that she was masculine, hopeless. Hopeless could be strict. He, hopeless padri, which could mean he's severe, he's boring, loud, punishing, self-righteous, unholy, probably promiscuous, corrupt, an avoidable confessor. So, it could mean so many things. It could mean tuneless, like what hopeless numbers she sang. It could be old-fashioned, irrelevant, unfamiliar. It could be classical music, not popular. So, it was a fantastic language. Like, take a word like nice. It could mean decent. He's a nice bugger. Good, gentle, bit of a sucker. Naive, easygoing. Nice could be ladylike. She's a nice thing, Auntie Phil. Demure, kind, sweet, generous. Nice could also mean hard. He gave him a nice pasting. Vigorous, thorough, sound, earnest, forceful, powerful, heavy, hurtful. And various words like nice, thing, became. The word became could mean so many things. It was generally in the past tense. Born, it could mean born. She, 6 months married and baby became owl. Or it could mean made. The great, greeting was chapati became what? Like, it meant done, completed, finished, accomplished. So that's a bit of the... That's a bit of the, what is that? The lexicon of the word. I will read you a little more later, but first, I did this in obedience to the Nod. He's the great Nod. I mean, I must thank him because this book wouldn't have been a book. It would just be a PDF manuscript, if not for Jerry, who looked at the book, who read through the book and very slowly nodded. He's for me the great nod. Thank you for that great nod.
I have a new name, the Great Lord.
Yeah.
But Geronimo Maria.
And then I have to thank, of course, Speaking Tiger and Ravi Singh and his team for putting this book together.
Oh, it's dark. Oh, wait.
This is the cup.
The cover says "Sacred to the memory of Amboli," which is on a tombstone. If you can't see it, so I'm just reading it out. Beautifully done. But then this is, I think, the advertising man coming to the front. I think. Good show, I mean.
So you slowly reveal it like
You
this.
pull
No,
that
no,
side.
this. That's a nice cover, isn't it?
So let's begin with the idea of those few jagged events of truth that form the center of the book. I'm not a great one for separating fact from fiction. I think, a well-told story is a well-told story. But when you're taking fact as the starting point of fiction, there are often things that you accept and things that you just drop out of the facts. So what were the droppings?
What were the droppings?
Yeah, what did you leave out in the telling of the story? First, just take us through a brief synopsis of the story, and then we can.
Well, this book is a novel in which the main character is the village of Amboli and Kevri. That's where I grew up. So I'm not a historian. I'm not writing a history of the book. So it's where I don't know where history begins and fiction sort of starts, or the other way around. But this is the story of a village. The village is the main character, and over time in the book, I've seen this village die and the city take over. Now, this death is sort of narrated here not as a tragedy or something to mourn about, but the death of this village is narrated in the manner of I would say, the Mansmine Mass. Do you know what Mansmine Mass is?
Yeah.
This is Goa.
Yeah.
The Catholics would know what the Mansmine
Everyone knows what the Mansmine Mass is.
The Mansmine Mass is a terrific event. In the sense, after one month later, friends and relatives are invited to the Mansmine Mass, and after which you go home. You go home to the home of the deceased, where the family gets together with other family members and other friends who have not met for a long time, except at funerals. So
To drink Fenny.
so the Fenny bottle is brought out, but not in Amboli. In Amboli, in my time, it used to be the fantastic country liquor, which you got from the auntie next door.
And there's a terrible, terrible myth that is spread about country liquor that it can drive you blind. This is when there is prohibition and methanol is added to the country liquor, and that methanol is spiked. But I have never heard of anyone who drank Santrika country, like proper good country liquor, and got anything but a little happy.
Well, I'm still blind, and I still can't see. So, the Fenny bottle or country bottle was brought out, and you had this fantastic East Indian preparation called mutton lonvas with gawar, which is the green beans, which is really a very tasty kind of a dish. You had pulao, mutton pulao, and it was a great event because everybody got together and they told stories, they gossiped, they told jokes. the month's mind mass after a funeral was a grand, rollicking event. So this book is not so much in the nature of a condolence or sort of a mournful thing. It is a celebration of the fun of it is a celebration of death. So then that's the well. So I hope you enjoy this funeral. The idea for the book came not while I was in Bombay. The idea for the book came to me when I moved to Goa. Because I came to Goa and I saw the large, beautiful houses of the people who lived in Amboli. In Amboli, they lived in poky little one-room chawls. In fact, let me read something about those chawls. This chapter is about a character called Bastian Rodrigues, who was a toddy tapper from Goa, from Mandre, and he came to Bombay in search for a job. Of course, he couldn't do toddy tapping in Bombay, so he learned tailoring. But when he came back with his wife, finding a house was difficult. The real estate tide of those days brought him to distant Andheri, where again there seemed nothing to suit his pocket until he came to the East Indian-dominated villages of Kerni, Amboli, and Osora. The local landlords, seeing opportunity, and had constructed temporary structures of bamboo held together by mud. Some of these temporary structures are being occupied even to this day. These were long tenements, chawls they were called, but quite unlike the brick and mortar multi-story chawls of the city. Each chawl was a line of about 8 to 10 small 10 feet by 10 feet one-room homes. A bamboo wall separated one home from another, permitting you the favor of just visual privacy. Your bedroom whispers broadcast across to at least 2 families on either side of your home enable your neighbors to predict your wife's delivery date even before your gynecologist. Truly, these walls had ears. In the old days, before the Second Vatican Council, and even for some time later, the last rites were sung in Latin by the sacristan, and we call his name, we call him Jackie. He brought his old violin along with the sprinkler to the graveside, and with muted double stoppings, accompanied his vocal rendering of the Profundis, Liberame, and Dies Irae. At times like these, Kitty remembered hearing under the firm Gregorian line sung by Jackie another soft, hardly discernible voice. It was that of Hanging Gardens, whose job as grave digger was to wait till the end of the funeral. But later, much later, in the new rubrics, selected texts of the last rites were read out by the priest, not sung. The singing was now left to the relatives of the deceased to initiate and lead. They did so exercising their personal choices. You could expect the popular "Abide with me" and "Lord, I'm coming home," but every now and again you might be struck by the originality of grief's musical expression. Kitty will tell you of the time when this one family, silent and dry-eyed, throughout an almost somnolent rite, were woken up by the song, "When there may be 6 feet deep," rendered by an octogenarian with a sonorous nasal voice, accompanied by an earnest harmonica. Another funeral was auditorium for a vibrant rendition of Bach Gounod's Ave Maria. by the family soprano. Promptly, the next funeral had a family singing, of all pieces, the wedding song, which ended, because it ended with the words, Ave Maria. Often, the undertaker's man would start a song if nobody from the family was forthcoming. Kitty tells of a funeral at which 10 sons and a daughter stood silently around the grave of their mother. As the casket was halfway down, the undertaker began the song, Mother of Mine, in a truly tearful timbre. It was a hit with the family and the attendees, bringing on the sniffles and waterworks. Encouraged by the success, the undertaker thought fit to offer his Mother of Mine at the next family funeral just 6 months later, which this time was that of the patriarchs. Kitty wondered what song she would sing, if at all she said she did, at Hanging Gardens burial today. I came back to say I'm sorry, or would it be 16 tons? Either one would, in today's free-for-all ritual, be considered as liturgically appropriate as a De Profundis or a Requiem. The whole book has been written in form of episodic chapters. Each chapter is a little episode which you can sort of, if you're in a hurry, just read one of them and go to sleep. This one is about how, the St. Blaise's Church, which is the parish church of Amboli, how it was built. History books tell us of a man called Tristão Dias Ribeiro and his wife. Tristão Ribeiro was a Portuguese official, and he lived very closely in Resova. And it seems he put in the money for the building of St. Blaise's Church. Now, that's all that's been mentioned in the history books. They mentioned that this fellow, Tristão Ribeiro, put in the money to build the church. We don't know much more about it, but any one of you can dream up stories on how it could have happened. This is the way I think it could have happened. Tristão Dias Ribeiro decided to go back to Portugal and get married because it was good to have a wife. And he went there, and a number of girls were lined up for his approval. Bella was the first girl he saw. The moment she entered the room, it was as if he had lost his equilibrium. He couldn't believe his eyes. Could such a creature exist? Those succulent lips, those passionate eyes, that full and heaving bosom, a silken skin, maddening. His head did a spin. Suddenly, he couldn't see clearly. Everything became hazy. Was he on firm land, or was he still on that rolling ship? He had to be steadied and given a glass of water. He didn't want to see any more girls, of course. He asked for the wedding to be arranged quickly. He made no attempt to hide his impatience, nor could he if he wanted to. His whole being was on edge, aching for that moment when the two would be together in their room. His family and friends had never seen anything like this before. They had witnessed the passion of couples very much in love, but nothing like this. Tristão and Bella stayed locked inside their bridal room for 3 days and nights without stepping out even once for their meals. On the morning of the 4th day, they came to the dining room, quickly ate their breakfast and went back in. They stepped out again for a hasty lunch and then dinner. To the amazement of all and the amusement of many, this went on for all of 4 weeks. And still Tristão walked with glazed eyes, hair all disheveled and speaking to nobody. Prudencia, his mother, was disturbed. That night in bed, she shared a concern with Francisco, her husband. "That is lust," she said to him. "The flutter in the loins, not the heart. It's not right, not good." "It will travel upwards," Francisco said calmly. He said, "What will?" she asked. "The flutter from the loins to the heart." "How do you know that?" she asked. "Oh, I know," he said. He looked at her and said, "With you, it was the other way around." Prudencia sat up. "What do you mean?" "Yours traveled downwards, from heart to loin. It took a long time, though, remember? Trista, our son, took 3 years to make an appearance." "You're a wicked man," she said coyly. "With Bella, it is simultaneous," he said. "Flutter in both places, from day one. Trista is a lucky man. We did our job well, Prudencia. Trista has got to thank you and me." And of course, the fluttering continued. And then it happened. Bella developed a throat infection, a rather nasty form. It was as if one of those crabs she saw on the beach had crawled in and caught her by the throat. Swallowing became torture. She could hardly speak. Dr. Gaspar Barreto, a Portuguese physician from Colaba, was consulted. He gave her a specially compounded mixture to be taken 4 times a day, which would set her right, he said. It did not. In fact, it got worse. She lost whatever little voice she had. She groaned with pain. Yet she did not resist the calling of Trista's urgent flutters. As a result, her husband caught the infection too. He was miserable for a week, during which time he spared her his advances. The pain in his throat was stronger than the flutter elsewhere. But then his robust constitution got the better of that pharyngeal crab. He was well again, up and running, and so was the libidinous flutter. This time, however, Bella was firm. She didn't let him even come near her. "No, my darling," she pleaded with him. "I have this terrible thing and I don't want to give it to you again. I love you too much to do that." This time, her flutter moved decidedly upwards and lodged itself there. She stayed locked in her room for days, asking a maid to bring her cold soups from time to time. Trista was in agony. His throat was fine now, but the flutter was causing his whole being to ache. He thought he would go mad. He had handled sword and musket in the skirmishes that helped Portugal acquire the lands north of Goa, suffered wounds to his body, but none like this. 5 minutes, okay. The doctor seemed useless. So he talked to his padre about it. It didn't work. Trista spoke to his confessor, the Padre Avelino de Cunha, an 80-year-old Jesuit who had worked alongside that holy and amazing priest Francisco Xavier, who died 2 years ago. He told him of his devotion and prayers to Madre de Dios, which had resulted in nothing. "It is the wages of sin, my son," said the Padre. "Lust has its consequences. Madre de Dios will certainly not help you. I've looked at all the books and there is no patient saint of love-making, I assure you." In the locked room, Bella was being visited by a confessor, Padre Antonio Suarez, a Franciscan. He would come every day with 2 candles tied into a cross, and he placed the wax cross against her throat and uttered a prayer in Latin. "What is that prayer you say, Padre?" Bella wanted to know. "It's a prayer to Saint Blaise, patron saint of those having those throat ailments," he told her. Before leaving, he painted her throat with paste made from herbs. "What is that?" she asked. "It is a herbal paste from a root I got in Canada," he said. "I study local medicinal plants, and then I pray. I get guidance from above. This time, from Saint Blaise." Bella paused before she spoke. "If I get well, I will ask my husband to build a church in honor of the saint who cured me. That is a promise I made before you, Padre. And so it came to pass that the Franciscans built the church of St. Blaise in Amboli with money provided by the lusty lover, Tristan Dias Rivero. It would not have happened if his wife had not been afflicted with a throat infection. There would be no St. Blaise's church if not for that passionate flutter. It's the story of concupiscence and faith.
Thank you all very much.